Hey there guys, PC Guy here with the news in tech and gaming for the week, and it's been a busy week, so you guys might have noticed I missed the upload on Tuesday. Just didn't have time to get it ready in, well, time for uploading it. I did the move of my case, which should be up the next month, Tuesday, so you'll be able to see all about that, hopefully, if it comes out as a nice video, which I hope it will. In any case, might happen a bit more often from now on, since I kind of will be missing one day for recording that I usually have every 2 weeks, so might happen more often that I miss a video or two. But in any case, and as usual, friendly reminder to hit the subscribe button to help us get more resources, more hopefully review samples, that sort of thing, to give us a bit more content to work with and to be able to find themes for videos more easily. In any case, won't take you much longer. I'm gonna dive right into the weekly news that you guys are expecting. So last week I kind of forgot to talk about a semi-important point. Some IP from, or intellectual property from AMD has reportedly been stolen and tried to be auctioned. Turns out that it wasn't really horrible that I kind of didn't report it, because there were some developments and some clarifications that were kind of released in the passing of the week, and gives us a bit more insight into exactly what the consequences are and how serious it is. So it was at first reported as being the source code for Navi and the Xbox Series X GPU, and it turns out to not be as much of an issue as initially thought. Still serious that things like this just get swiped from under AMD's noses, but in any case there shouldn't be a lot of repercussions or vulnerabilities well, that can be exploited due to this data that has been kind of released or might be released to the public. So some person got somehow access to those files, that source code, let's call it, that they tried to call it, and they uploaded it on GitHub and tried to ransom AMD by saying that they would sell the code to the highest bidder for an amount of 100 million, which is kind of crazy. But it turns out that it's really not much of a big deal. First of all, there are very strict corporate espionage laws in place that if someone were to actually get their hands on this and use it somehow, they could be facing quite serious repercussions. So I doubt anyone would try to do this, and who would even try to do this? It would have to be Nvidia or Intel, and they're in a position that they cannot afford to get involved in this kind of issues, obviously, and anyone else that could possibly want to profit from it, they wouldn't be able to actually take any advantage of that, because let's face it, there's no other GPU manufacturers in the market. That aside, the pieces of the code that were actually released as a proof that they had this information, they were analyzed by several independent parties, and they kind of all agree that there's not a whole lot of stuff to do, that it's all written in a language, in programming language, that is only compatible with AMD's own architecture and own GPUs, so there's no way that it could be applied anywhere else, and there is no critical or dangerous information there. So yeah, again, it's worrying that this kind of thing happens, that just got swiped from AMD's servers or whatever, but the consequences seem to be relatively minor, and well, hopefully it will be a wake-up call for AMD to keep things locked down a little bit better. Another potentially worrying news for AMD and Intel, Amazon's Graviton 2 CPU was kind of launched last week. I mentioned it. It's only being used for Amazon Web Services right now, but there is another competitor in that server segment, which is the Marvell, they are calling it, double L, not the comic book company, but Marvell has announced the launch of the Thunder X3, which is a third generation ARM processor which has 96 cores, so notably more than AMD or Intel are offering. They can hit speeds of up to 3 GHz, and unlike AMD's and Intel's, they sport not 2 threads per core with hyperthreading or SMT, depending on which company's version you're talking about, but 384 threads, so 4 threads per core. There has been talk of AMD kind of dipping its toes into SMT4, which would give it also 4 threads per core, but that has not been confirmed, and if anything seems unlikely for the near future. So in terms of total amount of threads on a processor, this one definitely takes the crown, and it could potentially see some use in some very specific use cases. The disadvantage of this, and kind of puts it on an edge case, is that it is not an x86 platform like AMD and Intel's are, so the use cases might be limited because of that. At AMD's keynote, they were very insistent in showing us their mobile products and the next generation of mobile CPUs, and they are starting to finally hit the market in a more, well, pronounced capacity with the launch of Asus ROG Zephyrus G14, which sports different models of G14 with different CPUs in them, but the Ryzen 9 4900HS is especially interesting since it's one of the higher end ones. It's not the absolute highest end one, but the reviews are out on this one, and I'm not going to go point by point on the review because I don't want to rip on Tom's hardware review too much, but I will give you a general specs list, and it sports the expected 8-core 16 threads. It has Max-Q RTX 2060, so not quite the 2060 that we are used to on our desktops, but it is RTX 2060, so that's pretty decent. 16 gigabytes of DDR4 that are expandable to 24 gigabytes. This 8 gigabytes are soldered, so you cannot replace them, but here you can expand it to a 16 gigabyte stick. 1 terabyte NVMe drive, 120 Hz display, and, well, a pretty sizable battery life, which I'll show you in a graphic in a second, and it all goes for a price of 1,450 USD for a very high-end laptop, mind you, so it's not exactly a horrible price. Something worth mentioning is the battery life, which is obviously important on a laptop, and when compared to, for example, the Razer Blade Stealth, which is the longest battery life that has been compared to in this chart, it adds a good 3 hours on top of the battery life expectancy. So that is definitely a very massive improvement in terms of power usage and the efficiency of these chips. We obviously could not test this ourselves, but what I can read in multiple reviews is that it's one of the first, for the last few years, it's the first release of AMD laptops in terms of CPU capabilities, of course, that doesn't feel like they're cutting corners, and this very good build quality, very good performance, and the price seems to be right. It's not a bargain, mind you, but for the performance that you get, you are getting a very good product, and it's definitely a leap in terms of mobile capabilities. If you look at that battery life, for example, it is quite a big leap. We are talking about 20-25% battery life increase for better performance as well on top of it. So yeah, now the ball is on Intel's court to kind of get back on track and gain parity, but expect to see AMD venturing more into the laptop market, because this definitely is a very good start. No week is complete without one of the holy trinity of Windows vulnerabilities, Intel vulnerabilities, or driver issues. So here's this week's issue of Windows 10 causing problems with their updates, and apparently not a whole lot is being done to fix it. This time around, Windows Update KB4541335 seems to be giving blue screens of death, as well as irresponsive parts of Windows 10 interface and crazy high CPU usage if your device is charging, well, in this case, if it is, for example, a laptop. So if you are having these issues, and if you actually can get into Windows, because it's giving blue screens to some people, make sure to check if you have this update installed and uninstall it if you do. This next piece is the last that I would call actual news, and even though it is a leak, it is something that I can confidently say that at least what happened is true. I'm not sure if the content is actually real. Apparently the PS5 Price has just leaked, and keep in mind, leaked between air quotes. Canadian retailer Play and Trade has listed it on their website for $5.59 Canadian dollars, so that would translate to about $3.96. and this would make it about almost the same price as the PS4, which is shockingly low. Some people are considering all the hardware and the new stuff that is in there, like a PCIe Gen 4 SSDs, improved graphic and CPU capabilities, so it does seem surprisingly low. It did get leaked on the website. Now the question is, does it actually add up or not? Now there could be multiple explanations for this. Now the most likely of it is that it's a placeholder price. It's probably not very far off from what it's going to be. It's probably on the lower side, and it could just be a pre-order price for them to kind of, let's say, get a deposit on your pre-order to make sure they don't order extra and have it lying around, and they might ask you to pay the difference when you actually get the product. So that's the most likely case. And then there is also the case of it might actually be the real price that got revealed too early accidentally. Not very likely, so I'm kind of edging towards the placeholder price version of it. The current world health crisis, let's call it, has prompted Microsoft to issue its first ever targeted warning towards, in this case, hospitals, to fix their VPN applications, because apparently they have identified a lot of vulnerabilities in this sector, especially now that a lot of more people are working remotely. There's a lot more information being shared and a lot more access being given to different people at different places online. So there seems to be people targeting specifically healthcare facilities through their VPN networks that are not very secure, and injecting ransomware in there to, well, obviously trying to profit from the situation, I suppose. So this is the first time Microsoft has ever issued an application at a specific sector like this, and in a way kind of speaks a lot to how low people will sink to target healthcare facilities at a time like this with cyber attacks. In the other hand, it is to be expected at a time like this that everyone's rushing to work more and more remotely and from home, that there are some, let's call it, some growth pains that need to be addressed. The bright side of this is that when this all blows over and the world returns to normalcy, maybe more people will be able to work remotely, because the situation has proved that it is doable if the will is there and if the companies are flexible in their requirements of their employees. So yeah, maybe the infrastructure that will allow for this transition to take place will actually be a bit better prepared and a bit more developed over time, and also a bit more secure. Last week has also included April 1st, and the tech industry is no exception. We didn't see any crazy, insane stunts pulled off by the likes of Intel, Nvidia, AMD, etc. But that did not stop some of the tech news sites that I do sometimes reference and get my news from pulling their own stunts, and some of them were a bit more cleverly concealed, others were just a bit very obvious that there was something wrong with that, and yeah, looking at the date, it became very clear. So I'm just going to feature a couple of the more obvious ones that I ran across, just for the fun of it. WCCF Tech listed AMD's big Navi being finally released. It was supposedly called RX Gamma. Apparently they have announced it that if it was real, it would have 26 teraflops of compute power with 1.5 terabytes per second of bandwidth and 2.12 gig arrays. 80 compute units, it would have 32 gigabytes of DDR7, which that alone should have rung a lot of bells when it was released. And yeah, HDMI 8K support, PCIe 5.0, and 350 watts of TDP. A few other websites, in this case Fudzilla, they ran with Intel Core i9 10999K. Great naming there, really in tune with Intel lately, very difficult to actually get out of your mouth. And apparently it would double current gen performance. That alone, considering Intel's still stuck on their 14nm, soon to be 10, but yeah. That alone should have already, at the title, rang a lot of bells. And yeah, they actually fabricated a few benchmarks. It was going to be running 16 cores, 32 threads, all core 5 gigs. and it was going to be just, you know, topping every chart. In a way, it's good that they made this quite obvious that it was an April Fool's joke and a very over-the-top leaks, let's call it. Because some people were not as subtle. There was actually some gaming company, I forget the details because I just heard it in passing, but they actually announced as an April Fool's joke that they were going to release something that the community was really interested about. And then it was an April Fool's joke, and people were actually understandably upset. So yeah, sometimes you can take this kind of stuff too far. Anyway, this has been it for the week. It's been a mostly slow week in tech in terms of actual news, so not a whole lot to talk about there. Hope you guys have enjoyed the news episode. Like I said, there's going to be a video on Tuesday. It should have been up last Tuesday about the new case that I put in. I did do kind of a build time-lapse record of it, so I have to see how that actually turned out. Hopefully it will be a nice video. I'll do my best. In any case, I hope you guys are excited for it. It will be up on Tuesday, like I said. And once again, if you have enjoyed this video and would like to see our channel grow, hit subscribe. That's what we really need right now to get brand support, get some AdSense revenue. That would be already a good start in actually improving our capabilities and be able to film better, do better videos, and have just plain more stuff to actually work with and do more interesting content for you guys. So hope you guys have enjoyed it. Click on the like, drop a comment if you'd like to help us grow as well, and I'll see you guys in the next video, so have fun in the meantime.